Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the MLB slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, July the 29th. We're going to cover Wednesday's 9-game slate, take a look at Draftkings pricing, talk about Yahoo's pricing as well, hit on some guys I like at the pitcher position. We'll run through pitcher from top to bottom and talk about the guys I like the most. Not going to hit on every single pitcher, just the guys that really interest me the most. We'll talk about 3 specific hitters I like for Draftkings and for Yahoo, and then towards the end of the video, we will take a look at some stacks that I like for tonight, some teams I'm looking to stack up in my tournament lineups. But before we do get started, guys, as always, would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. I always appreciate the likes on the videos. I appreciate the comments. I really appreciate you guys' feedback. So if you ever want to leave any comments, any feedback, you can do so down below in the comment section. If you would leave a like, I would appreciate that as well. And you can hit that subscribe button too. I do upload a lot of MLB videos. I'm uploading MLB videos pretty much daily. I'm going to try and get MLB videos up daily. And when NBA returns in a couple days, I will have NBA videos up as well. So I'll be getting up 2 videos a day. When NFL season gets here in a couple months, I'll be making NFL videos as well. I'm going to have a ton of content for you, coming out for you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bell as well, the little bell icon that's next to the subscribe button. If you click that, you'll get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. If you have like the YouTube app on your phone, it should just like send you a notification whenever I upload a new video. So hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, like this video. Appreciate all that stuff, guys, or appreciate if you would do all of that stuff. You can also check out some of my Patreon exclusive content that is linked down below in the description. I do go more in depth on each main slate. I do write an article for MLB where I'm covering all my favorite plays. I go through catcher, first base, pretty much all positions. Obviously go through pitcher as well. I even go more in depth on the teams I'm looking to stack. Over on Patreon, you can see all the exclusive content I have over there. I give some more core plays over on Patreon as well. So check out the Patreon content. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this 9-game slate for Wednesday. We'll start off at the top pitcher. So today's pitching slate, much better than some of the pitching slates we've had just the last few days. I mean, the last few days pitching has been pretty brutal. Not the case today. We got a lot of guys at the top, some household names. Jacob deGrom, 12K against the Red Sox. Garrett Cole, 11-4 against the Orioles. Charlie Morton, 10-8 against the Braves. And then you got guys like Mike Soroka, Matt Boyd, Chris Paddock, Brandon Woodruff. Well, I'll talk about them in a second. But just starting off with the guys 10K and above. Jacob deGrom at the top, 12K, at home against Boston. Not the best spot on paper. Boston does have a pretty solid lineup. I know they've been pretty bad to start the season. They've really hurt me in terms of stacking. I've stacked Boston just the last few days, and it really hasn't worked out. I was very heavy on them again Tuesday night, and right now that's not looking great. Last time I checked, they had like 2 or 3 runs through the 6th inning, so that Boston stack Tuesday night's not looking great for me, but even though the lineup has struggled as of late, this still isn't the best spot for Jacob deGrom. But I think if you want to roster him here, I have no problems with that. Jacob deGrom is just such a talented pitcher. He can go out there and get 8, 9, 10 strikeouts no matter what the matchup is. We saw him pitch very well even in a tough matchup against the Braves to start the season. I believe he threw 5 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts, only gave up 1 walk and I think 1 hit maybe. Just looked really good. Only threw 72 or 73 pitches though, which is somewhat of a concern. I wouldn't expect that to be the case today, though. I assume deGrom can go at least 80, 85 pitches. Maybe they'll let him pitch more if he's pitching well. The only reason he's not going to be a core play for me today is because Garrett Cole just gets such a better matchup. Garrett Cole also cheaper than deGrom. You get Cole for $600 less on Draftkings, and he is in a great spot today against the Orioles. Garrett Cole also cheaper than deGrom over on Yahoo. Looking at their pricing, you got deGrom at 56, Cole at 53. I do prefer to go to Cole between the two. I don't think deGrom's out of play, though. I will definitely have some exposure to him in tournaments, especially if he's going to be low-owned. But just straight up, choosing between the two, Cole stands out to me in terms of just raw projection. I think he just projects a little bit better given the matchup. Cole's an elite pitcher, elite strikeout pitcher. I mean, last season, K rate, absolutely insane. 43% K rate to lefties, 36% to righties. And this is an Orioles team that does have plenty of strikeouts in their lineup. We look at their K rate last season versus right-handed pitching. A little bit surprising. It's only like middle of the pack. 19th in K rate, 22.8%. But Garrett Cole is just such a talented pitcher. He can get Ks no matter who's at the plate. Really bad offensive team, though. You look at, any offensive category versus right-handed pitching, the Orioles were like bottom 10 in every offensive category. 241 batting average, towards the bottom of the league. You look at slugging. In terms of slugging, they were ninth worst, 414 slugging. ISO, in terms of looking at their power, really no power versus right-handed pitching, just a 173 ISO. You look at WOBA, also towards the bottom of the league in WOBA, 307. So smash spot here for Garrett Cole. I don't think we have a run total in this game yet, but I assume when it comes out, the Orioles are probably going to have maybe a 3.2, 3.3 run total. It might even be lower than that. Love Garrett Cole here. Hard not to like him. He's my top pitcher on the slate. He's going to be really popular, I assume, but hard to not like him in the spot against one of the worst offenses in the league. He looked great in his season debut with the Yankees on last Thursday night. He only pitched 5 innings. The game got called after 5 innings because of rain, but he looked great through those 5 innings. Only allowed 1 hit. That 1 hit was a home run, but I think he had 8 strikeouts through 5 innings, and that was against the Nationals. Obviously, this is a much better matchup today against the Orioles, so that's kind of what I'm looking to at the top of picture, just talking about the 10K and above guys. Charlie Morton, didn't really hit on him, but I don't think I want to go to Morton today against the Braves. Just not the best spot. Braves are a really good lineup. They don't strike out. When you have Garrett Cole and Jacob deGrom for just a little bit more, I would rather get to those guys over a guy like Charlie Morton. But then looking at some of these guys in the 9K and 8K range, you got Mike Soroka against the Rays. Probably won't go there. Matt Boyd against the Royals, I could see going to, but I think I would just rather go to some of these cheaper guys. Chris Paddock at 8,400 against the Giants, I like a lot on DraftKings. I think he's a little bit too cheap in my opinion. And you can definitely play Paddock and Cole together. You plug them two together, that still leaves you $37.75 remaining per player, which I know doesn't sound like a lot. But there are some good cheap bats in good spots today that we'll talk about in a second. But just looking at Paddock here against the Giants, another guy that gets a lot of strikeouts in Chris Paddock. Last year versus lefties, 23.8% K rate versus righties, over 30% K rate. Should probably face, thinking about the Giants lineup, he should face at least 3 or 4 righties today, if I had to guess. Very similar to the Orioles. You look at splits last season versus right-handed pitching. The Orioles, or the Giants, were towards the bottom of the league in pretty much every offensive category versus righties. Batting average, bottom 5 in the league. You look at WRC plus, second worst in the league. You look at ISO, which is a power metric. The Giants were fifth worst in the league. You look at WOBA, third worst in the league. K percentage, not a team that strikes out a ton. They were about middle of the pack as well, just 12th in K rate versus righties, 23.4%. But still, their lineup is just so bad. It's a great pitcher's park as well. Getting to pitch in Oracle Park, which is, in my opinion, the best pitcher's park in the game right now. Love this spot for Chris Paddock. At 8,400 on DraftKings, I think he stands out as one of the better mid-range options. Even if you're paying up for Garrett Cole, I think you can still play him and Paddock together. Now on Yahoo, I don't know how much Chris Paddock I'm going to get to. He's only $4 less than Garrett Cole. When you just look at Yahoo pricing, there's guys like cheaper than Paddock that I would rather go to that we'll talk about in a second. Like you got Brandon Woodruff for $40. You got Andrew Heaney for $40. Both those guys are way cheaper than Chris Paddock. Like if I'm going to pay nearly $50 for my SP2, I'm just going to play deGrom and Cole together rather than pay $49 for Paddock. So that's kind of my take on him over on Yahoo. But DraftKings, 8,400, really like that price tag. I think Paddock does stand out quite a bit over there. But even a guy like Brandon Woodruff, I like quite a bit at 8,100. Woodruff, just a really talented pitcher. Not the best spot against the Pirates. The Pirates are a team that doesn't really strike out, or they are a team that don't strike out much. You look at their K rate last season versus right-handed pitching, second lowest in the league, only behind the Astros, just at 18.8% K rate versus righties. But kind of similar to the Orioles and Giants, they just don't have the best lineup. It's not a lineup you're very scared of. They do have some solid hitters like Josh Bell, really good hitter, but especially when you get towards the bottom of that Pirates lineup, there are some easy outs at the bottom. It's a good pitcher's park in Pittsburgh, so Woodruff I like as well at 8,100. Andrew Heaney I like quite a bit too, 7,900 against the Mariners. I talked about this last night with, I can't remember who it was. I'm already blanking. Who was facing Seattle on Tuesday night? I totally forgot. Patrick Sandoval. I talked about this with Patrick Sandoval on Tuesday night. Not really sure how he's doing that game. I think it just started as I'm recording this video. Reason I liked Patrick Sandoval so much Tuesday night was because he was getting a very favorable matchup against the Mariners. You look at the Mariners splits last season versus left-handed pitching. I'll pull them up real quickly just so you guys can see. In terms of K rate versus lefties, Seattle was top 6 in the league in terms of strikeout rate, 24.8%. In terms of like offensive categories as well, like ISO, WOBA, they were towards the bottom of the league as well, I believe. I mean, about middle of the pack in ISO, 181 ISO versus lefties. Looking at WOBA, Seattle was, let's see. They're also middle of the pack in WOBA. So they're about middle of the pack in terms of offensive categories, but that K rate is pretty high, 6th highest in the league versus left-handed pitching. Andrew Heaney is a guy that can get strikeouts. He does have really good strikeout stuff, has a really good curveball that he can get swings and misses on, that he can get guys to chase on. Last season, versus lefties, 27.5% K rate versus righties, 29.3% K rate. Did have a problem with the long ball, gave up 2.79 home runs per 9 to lefties, 1.66 to righties, but there's not really many guys in this Mariners lineup that you're going to be worried about in terms of power. They just don't really have much power in their lineup. Kyle Lewis, I know, is one of their better young prospects. He's maybe a guy you'd be concerned with, but like, especially that bottom of the lineup is just not very good. Andrew Heaney's the guy that I like to go to on Yahoo, especially because he's $9 less than Paddock. Whether it's Heaney or Woodruff, I don't really have a problem with either, but I do prefer Heaney, especially because his strikeout matchup is much better than Woodruff's. You compare Heaney and Cole together very easily on Yahoo. That still leaves you $13 remaining per player, which, given how soft Yahoo's pricing is should be very easy to work around. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on pitching for Yahoo, Cole and Heaney. DraftKings, I like Cole and Paddock, but you can mix and match these guys that I've talked about. All these guys I'm going to have interest in. All of them I'm going to have exposure to across all my different lineups tomorrow. But then just a few more pitchers, or looking for a few more pitchers we could maybe target. If there's any value guys, I'll be sure to hit on them, but I don't really see any value looking at this like the night before. Maybe Johnny Cueto at home against the Padres, just a very favorable ballpark in Oracle Park, the best pitcher's park to pitch in. The Padres do have a very right-handed heavy lineup, which is pretty beneficial to Cueto. He is better versus righties than lefties, if I do believe. Not the best pitcher overall, doesn't get a ton of strikeouts, but he's dirt cheap at 6K. Really good pitcher's park. If you're going to play a cheap guy at pitcher, Johnny Cueto's, I think, the guy that I definitely would go to. I don't know how much I'm going to play of him. I'm going to probably try and get to these mid-range options, these 8K guys if I can, but Cueto's definitely an option at 6K. Maybe even Joe Musgrove at 5,300 you could consider against the Brewers. Another guy that just gets to pitch in a pitcher-friendly park. The Brewers have a solid lineup, but we've seen at times they can go out there and kind of disappoint. Musgrove has shown some upside, and he's only 5,300. He's fully stretched out. I do have some interest in him, but again, if I can get to this mid-range, that's probably where I'm going to be trying to live today in terms of pitcher. Living in this mid-range, the 7 to 8K range, and then paying up for guys like DeGrom and Cole. So that's what I'm liking at pitcher. Now we'll talk about some guys that I like in terms of hitters. I think the Tigers are actually a team I like quite a bit today, which is kind of scary. Like, the Tigers just don't have that good of an offense. They're not the best offensive team. But they are in a pretty favorable spot versus Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy is a guy that has struggled versus right-handed hitters. We look at his splits last season versus righties. 318 WOBA, which isn't very high, but did give up the long ball. 1.51 home runs per 9 to righties. Just a 20% K rate, which is about average. If we take a look at Duffy's career numbers, he actually used to be pretty good. I'll see if I can get these career numbers to pull up. I was having trouble getting them pulled up earlier. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to pull up, which sucks. I wanted to take a look at them. I don't know why they're not loading on Fangraphs, but in looking at Duffy's 2019 numbers, I mean, he did struggle to righties, did give up power to righties. He used to be really good, but he's kind of fallen off just these last few years. Danny Duffy has struggled to right-handed hitters, and the Tigers actually have some guys that hit lefties well. Specifically, Jonathan Scope, 3,300 on DraftKings, very, very cheap. Also, dirt cheap over on Yahoo. He's only $9 over here. I think Jonathan Scope stands out as one of the better values on this slate. We take a look at his splits last season versus lefties. He had a 277 batting average versus lefties. If you want to take batting average into account, you look at his ISO as well, 286 ISO, which is very good. 376 WOBA. For Jonathan Scope, got a lot of hard contact as well, 46.8% hard hit rate for Scope versus lefties. This is a guy that has mashed left-handed pitching. I shouldn't say mashed left-handed pitching, but he's been much better versus lefties than righties just throughout his career. He should not be 3,300. I know that he's on the Tigers, so we just automatically assume he sucks, but Jonathan Scope is actually a pretty good hitter, especially when he was with the Orioles and with the Twins. Like, he was a pretty solid hitter, batting towards the top of those lineups. I like Scope a lot at only 3,300. I think as a value play, he stands out quite a bit, especially on DK. He's even Yahoo. I mean, $9. That's just $2 off minimum salary. I do like Scope a lot at second base over there, and we're gonna need value today in terms of our bats. I want to pay up at pitcher. Like these last few slates have been slates where I've just been okay with paying down at pitcher and loading up on bats. I think this is a slate where I'm going to try and pay up at pitcher, spend as much as I can, and then find some cheap bats like these Tigers guys. I think the Royals are also in a good spot on the other side of this game. I think there's guys from the Royals that we can target that are very, very cheap. But from the Tigers, I do like Jonathan Scope a good amount here against Danny Duffy. And then another guy from the Tigers I think we can target is C.J. Cron. This is another guy that has matched left-handed pitching throughout his career. He is also very cheap on DraftKings at $3,200. He's cheap on Yahoo. You can plug him in if you want to. He's $14 at first base, but I am gonna save that spot or save those spots for later. There are some other guys that we'll talk about on Yahoo that I like. But back to DK at $3,200. C.J. Cron, just another guy that's hit left-handed pitching very well. You look at his ISO and WOBA last year versus lefties, even better than Jonathan Scope. 310 ISO versus lefties, 412 WOBA. Got a lot of hard contact as well, 37.9% hard hit rate to lefties. Cron has always been better versus lefties than righties. And even you look at his at-bats, faced 329 righties last year, only faced 129 lefties. Nearly had as many home runs versus lefties and righties. 11 of his 25 home runs came against left-handed pitching last year. So Cron has shown a lot of pop versus lefties. Now he gets to face Danny Duffy, a left-handed pitcher that has shown he will struggle to righties, can give up power to righties. Really like the spot for some of these cheap Tigers, specifically Cron and Scope. I believe they should be batting both in the top 4 in the order. I think Scope usually bats second and Cron usually bats cleanup. So that's a nice little mini stack you can do, but I have no problem full stacking this team, playing 4 or 5 of these guys. They're all very affordable. The only guy above 4K in this lineup is Nico Goodrum. Everyone else is under 4K. So there is a lot of value in this Tigers team, and last time I checked, I believe they did have a over 5 implied run total, so Vegas kind of likes the Tigers as well. Normally the Tigers aren't a team I like to stack up, but I think I'm going to be on them today, especially looking at these DraftKings prices. But real quick, we'll go ahead and fill out the Yahoo core over here, early core. So the Yankees are a team that I think is in a fantastic spot today, facing Asher Wojciechowski, a guy that's just not that good. The Yankees have an elite lineup. The only issue on DraftKings is that these guys are incredibly expensive. I mean, you look at their literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hitters, 5K and above on DraftKings. Like pretty much their whole lineup is almost 5K and above. Depending on who's in the lineup tomorrow, their whole lineup could potentially be almost 5K and above. So it's really hard to get the Yankees in on DraftKings with guys like Cole and Paddock. Like you're just not going to be able to do that. It's pretty much impossible. But over on Yahoo, you can actually make it work. The Yankees are actually somewhat affordable over here. Gary Sanchez at catcher is only $15, which I like a ton. We look at the outfield. You have Giancarlo Stanton for only $18 as well. I also like that price, but even looking at some of the other Yankees bats on Yahoo, we'll take a look at them real quick. You got like Torres is the most expensive hitter at $20, and then you got LeMahieu and Judge both $19, Aaron Hicks and Voit both $17. Like I said, you got Gary Sanchez for $15. Urshela is only $13. Brett Gardner's only $12. Mike Tauchman, if he's in the lineup, he's only $11. If Mike Ford somehow cracks the lineup, he's only $10. You can actually fit in the Yankees pretty easily with Garrett Cole and another expensive pitcher. I don't know if you'll be able to get like a full 5 or 6 man Yankee stack, but you can definitely do 2 to 3, maybe 4 of these guys in your lineup. They are very affordable on Yahoo, and like I said, Asher Wojciechowski, just really not the best pitcher. Struggled more to lefties than to righties last season, kind of as you would expect, given he's a right-handed pitcher, but still not great versus righties. Gave up a 314 WOBA to them versus lefties, a 367 WOBA. You look at the home runs, though, had a big home run problem last year. 2.33 home runs per 9 to lefties, 1.44 to righties. Does get a decent amount of strikeouts versus righties, 24.7%. Some of these guys will strike out versus right-handed pitching like Stanton and Sanchez. They will K. But I'm banking on the Yankees here. Like, if you had to tell me, or if you had to ask me, pick one, either Wojciechowski or the Yankees bats. Like, do I think the Yankees score 6+ runs, or do I think Wojciechowski pitches 5-6 innings and only gives up a couple runs? I would bank on the Yankees scoring 6+ runs here. I just think the spot's that good. Great hitters park as well in Camden Yards, one of the more favorable hitters parks. Love the spot for these Yankees bats. If you can find a way to fit them in, I think they are easily one of the top stacks today. On Yahoo, it's much easier to get to them. given the pricing. DraftKings, it's pretty much impossible if you're paying up at pitcher, so you might have to make some sacrifices. Maybe play a guy like Cueto, who we talked about earlier. Maybe throw in someone like Joe Musgrove, and so that way you can get to those Yankees bats. I could totally see doing like a 4 or 5 man Yankees and then 2 or 3 Tigers. I could see doing like that kind of stack. But obviously, if you want to do that, you're going to have to take out probably Paddock and downgrade to someone like Cueto or Musgrove. Or maybe even you might have to downgrade off of Cole and go to someone like Woodruff or Heaney. Just kind of toying with different lineup builds, just see what works. I'm definitely going to have full Yankee stacks tomorrow. I think the upside's there against Wojciechowski. If they can get to him early, then they get to face this really bad Orioles bullpen that they should be able to feast against. So love the spot for the Yankees bats. Easily one of my top stacks today if I can find a way to fit them in. But that's kind of what I like for Yahoo tomorrow. Now to fill out the DraftKings 5, the early 5 plays, another team I do like quite a bit for value are the Royals. I think they are in a pretty favorable spot here against Matt Boyd. I don't think Matt Boyd is a bad pitcher. I think he's actually pretty good, but he is definitely a guy that we've seen will struggle at times, will give up the long ball as well. And the Orioles do have some power, especially at the top of their lineup with guys like Whit Merrifield, Jorge Soler, Salvador Perez, all have power versus left-handed pitching. I think Salvador Perez, again, like he's been insanely chalky the last few slates, and he's still only 2,600 on DraftKings. I think if you're playing cash games on Wednesday and you don't have Salvador Perez at catcher, you probably shouldn't be playing cash games. But guys like Whit Merrifield, Jorge Soler, I like a lot, especially Whit Merrifield. He's just been red hot as of late. Homered on Monday night, also homered again on Tuesday night. Just been hitting the ball really well, been seeing the ball really well. And now he gets to face Matt Boyd, a pitcher that does struggle to righties, will give up the long ball to righties. Last year versus right-handed hitters, Boyd gave up a 324 WOBA. You look at the home runs, nearly 2 home runs per 9 versus right-handed hitters. Boyd does get a lot of strikeouts, though. He does have good K stuff, 30% K rate last year versus righties. But I'm not really worried about that because Whit Merrifield is already a guy that doesn't strike out much. I mean, below 20% K rate. I believe to lefties it's even lower. This is a guy that hits left-handed pitching very well. I think he's had good numbers in the past against Matt Boyd as well. I think he has some solid BVP. So if you're into BVP, I believe Merrifield has hit Boyd well in the past. He's got that going for him. 4,200. The price is starting to get up a little bit, but still, it's honestly still too cheap in my opinion. Like Whit Merrifield should be close to 5K pretty much every day, especially when he's facing a lefty. Even though it's a good lefty in Matthew Boyd, like I showed, Matthew Boyd last year struggled with the long ball, will give up home runs. Wouldn't be surprised to see him give up 1 or 2 solo shots today. So some of these cheap Royals I like a lot. Merrifield, Salvador Perez at 2,600, Jorge Soler at 3,600. I think those guys are really good values today and make a lot of sense as whether you want to use them in like a 2-man stack, 3-man stack, or just as one-offs. I like some of these Royals bats, and I talked about the Tigers as well. I like these Tigers bats too. I think this Royals-Tigers game is definitely going to be a game I look to for some bats, especially value hitters. But that's kind of what I'm looking at, or what I'm liking for pitching and for a couple bats. Obviously, I can't go through and talk about every single hitter. I will go more in depth on all the hitters I like over in my article on Patreon. So if you do want to check that out and get access to some of my exclusive Patreon content, that is linked down below in the description. But let's go ahead and hit on some stacks I like just before we end the video. So looking at stacks for today, talked about the Tigers. I think the Tigers are honestly one of my favorite stacks when you factor in their pricing on DraftKings. Really like CJ Cron, really like Jonathan Scope. Depending on what their lineup looks like, if you have someone like Jacoby Jones maybe leading off or batting towards the top of the order, he could be very interesting. Maybe a guy like Cameron Maybin, if he bats like 5th or 6th, could be very interesting. Same with someone like Victor Reyes. We'll just have to see what their lineup looks like. You got Candelario. He usually bats around the middle half of the lineup. He usually bats 5th or 6th. He's only 3K on DraftKings. I do like him as well. Miggy Cabrera is also very cheap, 3K. Only thing that sucks is that Cabrera and Cron are both first base only, I believe. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, CJ Cron and Cabrera are both first base only, so you have to choose between one of those two. Maybe if you play like on FanDuel, though, you could play Cron and Cabrera together since they have the util, I believe. I believe FanDuel has a util spot. I haven't played over there in so long, but definitely Scope and Cron I like a lot from the Tigers. The Tigers are going to be a team I look to for bats. Talked about the Royals as well. I don't really want to full stack the Royals, but I think a 2 to 3-man stack with guys like Soler, Mondesi, Perez, obviously Whit Merrifield, I like that quite a bit. Some other teams, though, that we can maybe target, like there's not a ton of stacks that really stand out looking at the slate the night before. Obviously, the Yankees I like a ton. Just hard to get them in with guys like Cole and Paddock. You're going to have to go cheap at pitching if you want to get to the Yankees. Like, I think Justin Dunn is making his major league debut. I don't really know much about him, but if you wanted to target guys like Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, Justin Upton, I would have no problems with that. But honestly, right now, I think my 3 favorite stacks, just looking at the slate the night before, when you factor in pricing and just the slate as a whole, like I said, I want to try and pay up at pitcher, so I like the Tigers and Royals a lot for value. If I'm not paying up a pitcher, though, I want to try and get some Yankees bats in there for sure. But I'll go more in depth on other teams I like to stack in my article on Patreon. So like I said, if you want to check that out, it's linked down below in the description. You can see all the content I do have available over on Patreon. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it helped you. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You never miss out on any of my new videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter too. I do have a Twitter, @DFSbyNoah. If you want to give me a follow, I would greatly appreciate it. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.